Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to talk about the topic which is going to be describing AWS security features and services. For example, we're gonna look at three of the services or features in your AWS. Now, the one is firstly we're gonna concentrate on security group, and then we're gonna do ACL and WAF. So firstly, we are going to understand about the security group over here. Now, what is security group? We are actually configuring this security group as a firewall feature for EC2 instance, which actually allows inbound traffic from the internet and outbound traffic from the server to the internet. So there are two ways traffic. There's always two-way traffic, which is inbound traffic and outbound traffic. So if you take a road for an example, a road a road is designed as a two-way road. Okay. But sometimes a road can be one way as well. So we don't normally say it's a two-way road, and that we don't have the habit of saying it's a two-way road, because a road will be designed for two ways. So there will be one lane for the ongoing traffic, another lane for your incoming traffic. So when you decide that road should be one way, then we specifically say that this is a one way road, saying that there will be either ongoing traffic or incoming traffic. Okay. So likewise, when you create EC2 instances, you kind of have this security group configured by default, allowing your SSH connection. You have the secured shell, so that connection to be allowed from anywhere. So this is something we have seen when we created an EC2 instance, right? So this is an inbound traffic. So anyone around the world can actually connect with your server using SSH. That's what we are saying. So let's just look at the hands-on session. I'm not sure if it's got logged off. Yeah, just give me a second. All right, I've logged into the server. So if I go to EC2 instance right there, so I should be able to see this network and security inside that. You have the security group over here. Now, when you click on security group, you kind of see multiple security groups over here. So we have launched a EC2 instance, right? So if you see that, if you just see the running ones, so I should see the T2 micro. So this instance would have a security group on it. So if I just go to security, I'm going to have a security group over here. So you can see that this is the security group name over here. And you can see that the security group is assigned over here for inbound and outbound traffic. Now, I don't think this is the one which we used to create. Not sure. I think, okay. So it could be any of the instance, doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you a default one, which is over here, which is created as default. And this allows all traffic as an inbound rule. And this is like outbound rule, all traffic. So this is a classical example of a default security group. And security group will always start with the word SG hyphen the unique ID of your group ID of your security group. And I want to show you a complex one as well in terms of security group. By default, the security group denies all traffic. Okay, so do remember that. So you have to enable traffic based on the requirement. Okay, so when you talk about security group, we talk about one of the complex ones which we configure for our Kubernetes service. So again, this is not part of your exam. This is just for to ensure that when you go to the next level, it's much easy for you, because rather than just learning for the certification, it is always good to learn for the future as well, because I really like that. So we have something called a control plane in Kubernetes and compute plane in Kubernetes. So I actually can see that I have instances configured for the Kubernetes, and I want communication between the Kubernetes cluster, also the Kubernetes access from my system, as well as like the console access for the Kubernetes, so from my system. So I need to enable all these stuff, right? So as I told you, by default, everything is disabled. So you need to open up the port numbers. It's like security groups is more or less like a firewall, which happens within your instances. Okay, so if you just look at the security group configuration for the compute plane and control plane, you will see a specific configuration which I have done. So let's go one by one. So let's talk about the compute plane, because that's, sorry, let's talk about the control plane, which actually is the master node. So when you look at this, there are 8 permission entries over here, which is configured as part of this control plane. Now, when you talk about inbound rules, now inbound rules talks about the incoming request to the server which this particular control plane security group is assigned to. If I have assigned this instance, let me open it on another tab. So I'm assigning this particular control control group, security group. And if you go to security, you can see that I have assigned the control group for my Kubernetes controller, which is the master server. In this situation, I'm allowing or accepting requests coming into the server. One is the port number 22. This is mandatory, or else I will not be able to do SSH from my Windows system to the AWS server and access that server. So here you can see the IP range here. So this tells you that anyone, so this is means all IP ranges as a source is accepting connection to this particular security group, which is listed over here, which is the port number 22. So very much important that it is not just about the IP address, but it is also the port range over here, which is pretty much you need to put across. Sometimes when you choose default services like SSH, okay, you don't have to give port number, because by default SSH would look up on 22. So there is this 0 to 1024, which actually has a protocol assigned to a port number. So we will call this as a protocol, and we will call this as a port number. So we will assign this, and we will put a IP across saying that this is the IP address range I want to accept. Okay. Now let's talk about these ones over here. First, let's finish all anywhere, and then we'll come there. Now I have 2 more items over here, which is 6443. 6443 is your cluster communication port, and that is also listening to everywhere. And 30,000 to 32,000 is a node port numbers. So when Kubernetes runs on system, and you want to browse the application on which is running on Kubernetes node, right? We will expose them to the internet using this range of port numbers called 30,000 to 32,767. So this is called the node port. So when we use this kind of a port, I want to see or browse the application which is running on this particular Kubernetes node. So for that, for me to browse it from my desktop, from my laptop, right, I need to have this port number exposed so that I can actually browse the service which is running on Kubernetes. So I will have to export this on the control node, so control plane, as well as the compute plane as well, because my worker nodes will be actually running on compute plane, that the slave nodes which actually runs my Kubernetes pod will be running on this one. So I need to expose that. But sometimes around, you don't have to expose it to the whole world, right? Like for example, over here. So what this means is that this IP address is tightly framed within the AWS network. So anything within the AWS network, because AWS has this IP address range assigned to all the internal servers. So here what I'm doing is like I'm giving some custom port numbers over here, like ICMP which will ping to other servers between each other. And again, you need to enable ICMP, or else you will not be able to ping it, though it would be reachable, but the ping will not work, okay, because ICMP is disabled. So likewise, you have to enable such port numbers. Like for example, here I'm enabling UDP port numbers over here. And this I'm saying it should be within the AWS network by giving the local IP address or the private IP address of the AWS. So what this means is that you can configure it for the whole world. You can configure it for the local network, which is happening with your subnet. You can also configure it for any kind of a range or source of an IP address. You can actually configure it for your laptop IP address, because when you click on edit item and you try to add a rule over here, it will tell you. So if you just select SSH, right, it will tell you over here. My IP address will also come over here. So if you just look for it, custom my IP, you can see that my IP. So this is my IP address, which I'm currently using on the system. And you can see that that IP address is given over here. But unfortunately, I have a dynamic IP address, which means that every time I restart my modem or restart the system, I will, or connect to a VPN, my IP address would change. So it's not really recommended to give IP address because it's a public IP address and anything can change. So you just have to keep on modifying. That's the reason why we give 0.0.0.0/0. So it means anywhere. So that's basically means anywhere. So you will have an option like this and you select that and basically means anywhere IP version 4 or anywhere IP version 6. So likewise, you choose this. I hope this extra information was helpful for you to understand a little more in detail about this. If you have any questions, leave it on the question section. I'll see you on the next one.